And welcome to another great show of Tampa Fishing Outfitters Fishing Report, coming at you live from Tampa Fishing Outfitters.
That was awesome. You didn't read it that time.
I didn't.
That was good.
I didn't, but as long as I get it right, whether I'm reading or not.
You're making
got
progress.
it, Bob.
Guys, Captain Jason Prieto in the house, Captain Rick Liles, Big Country, and we got the hard part, Shorty.
Yeah, buddy.
The hard
Cap
part.
Travis, the hard part.
I take it how I get it, son.
I'll make sure I tell him
I
never to
should've
cut my hair like
I
that.
was going to bring my hat, man.
Dude, the American
Cap
Idol.
Travis
My
Yaeckel
hat
in the house.
American Idol himself.
We're
Travis Yaeckel.
we're warm. We're inside.
We
Wow.
have no lights,
It's all right.
but it's
That
all
was
good.
weird when the lights go out.
So when our voice goes to the drug
Yeah.
dealer scene, it'll look real. It'll look real
Yeah,
good.
guys, let us know if our voices are normal. That actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll
I
take
like
it how
we're
we get it.
highlighted.
Got some shadows.
We're highlighted now, but yeah. Hey, it's been a great week of fishing when the weather's not bad. Whew.
You know what? Even the other day, 2 days, I had 2 days of pretty inclement weather and did fine.
The fish have been chewing,
Did
man.
fine.
We you know, and I've had several days where, and we've all talked, but where the clients call and go, hey, what have you looked at the weather? You know, and I think the common consensus is if you can get bait, you're good to go. And that's sort of the way I've been playing my trips. Even, you know, I took off today and yesterday, and I'm fishing tomorrow, but I talked to my guys this morning, and they were talking about it, and I said, listen, guys, as long as we get bait,
You probably
we're good to go.
did the right thing to take
You know,
off today.
I did take off.
Yeah.
Today was a
We
takeoff.
rescheduled today. I wasn't going to be here
And,
tonight. And it was blustery out
Thanks
there
to the folks at Mastery Suzuki for getting the new 300 on there for spring. So we're starting off with 0 hours, get a fresh start on that. So I ended up having today scheduled off. But yesterday I was supposed to fish, and we canned that one. And honestly, man, we probably could have got a morning in.
You might have could have got yesterday.
I had a full day lined up, but
About 10, it started looking real
I think I could have, if I would have got
bad.
bait, I think I could have got a morning in. I don't know how long that pre-front bite lasted, but let me tell you what, buddy. Monday was off the chain.
Oh, yeah.
We
Monday
had
was
a
good.
really good bite.
It was good.
Once that water started moving in, the
Shut
fish
that
really
thing
started.
off,
The
man.
fish really started chewing. We caught several snook in the morning. We did some snook fish in the morning, and then once that water started moving in, we started catching redfish, and then we finished up with a good trout bite. So the fishing has been really good. Like I said, the bait has really just been the kicker to it all. So let me put this in my pants. Keep going.
Fixing to toss that thing.
But anyway, guys, so we're here. We're going to talk some fishing, talk a little bit about what's going on.
We're going to give some people some tips, and we're going to teach y'all a little bit about the weather, how to fish around the weather, because that's what we had to do. We've actually had to fish through weather,
Mhm.
but when's the right time to go? When's the wrong time to go? How do you know when the pressures are right, when the barometer's right? What makes these feed fish? Let's talk a little about that today. I think that's a good topic. I think it goes hand in hand with what we're doing right now. We're also going to mention some events coming into this month that are going to be happening. I'm going to mention this a couple times. I think it's very important. If you're a guide or if you're not a guide that's on the Florida Guides Association, we're having our annual meeting at 8 a.m. at Raymond James Stadium this Sunday.
Right around the corner.
Yep, right around the corner. I'll be there. I got a charter after, but I'm going to be there for the meeting, and I don't even know if I'm going to be on stage talking a little bit, but
dancing.
It's
don't miss it.
Dancing bear.
Not gonna miss that one. But anyhow, even if you're not a member, we'd like you to come see what the Florida Guides Association is about. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff being talked about behind closed doors, and it's some of the same stuff that you're hearing people talk about on Facebook. The Florida Guides just kind of takes a different avenue. They try to, take that input and go to the FWC. I think everybody's talking about this, the redfish and trout fisheries. There's been a lot of concern. It's been popping up, and it's the same thing in the Florida Guides. But anyhow, we're going to have the meeting. We're going to be giving some awards away. Typically, there's a award. I can't remember what award they call it, but for the FWC, for Officer of the Year type deal. There are going to be some donuts, some coffee. We'd love to see any of the guides out there. Like I said, you do not have to be a member. It don't matter if you're 20 years into the business or this is your first year. All is welcome. All is welcome to come, and we encourage you guys to come.
I would actually encourage the newer guys, to be honest with you, to come out, check it out, see what's going on. It's going to give you the opportunity to start rubbing shoulders with some of the guys that have been in the business for a while, or some of the guys that have made some headway in the industry, not fishing, but just in the industry. And what you'll find is you'll learn a lot of information. You'll get a lot of cool stuff just from talking to some of the guys. You'll build new friends. As a member, you get some really neat perks too. There's some pro staff opportunities or some pro guide programs that you can purchase things for a discounted price. But you'll also get a discount on your insurance. And then you get listed on the Florida Guides Association website, which helps your SEO, especially a new guy, getting started. Anywhere that you can spread out and get your name out there to get more business is a plus. And so the Florida Guides Association is just one of those outlets that is a good thing to be involved with. You'll start to see that you'll gain some new friends, especially from the guide arena, just by being a member of the Florida Guides Association. So.
Yeah, and not to mention they partner up with Charter Lakes, and if you're with Charter Lakes, you get an additional discount on your insurance for being a Florida Guides member. Proud to be on the board. The biggest problem we have as a Florida Guides is nobody gets paid to do it, and the more help we have, the stronger we are, and we're stronger by numbers. So membership is important. I want to thank real quick. I'm not going to go on a tangent on this, but Charles Phillips is president of the Florida Guides. These guys just went out way out of state, somewhere up in the north, Michigan, and there was another place they traveled to. The organization paid for their trip there, but they donated their time. And it's kind of a newer thing that they're trying, but basically they're donating their time to promote Florida Guides in different states, and basically say, hey,
when you come to
fish,
Florida,
go to Florida Guides, fish with one of our guides type thing. So they're actually doing some promotion stuff. I mean, major promotion stuff. And I want to thank Charlie Phillips. I think Matt went. There's a few other guys. If I'm missing your name, I'm sorry. I'm just talking off the top of my head. But so they're also trying to generate some business for some of the guys that are on. And you get a listing with your on top of getting the Charlie Lakes discount for $100. Get a T-shirt. It's $120, $100. Somewhere in there, you get a T-shirt, you get a listing on the FGA site, you get a few other things on there that I'm not.
We have some special purchase programs.
Yeah, there's some guide program deals.
You'll be available, or you'll be eligible to purchase some product at a discounted price, being a member. But the other thing that I wanted to mention about the Florida Guides, and it's sort of off topic somewhat, but I get a lot of clients throughout the year that call me up. Guys that fish with me and say, hey, man, we're going to be in Pensacola this summer. Do you guys have somebody that you'd recommend? And I always go to the Florida Guides Association outside of a friendly contact or something like that. And what I found is that most of the guys that I end up connecting my clients with through the Florida Guides Association, I know that they're licensed and I know that they're insured. So I'm not putting somebody with somebody that doesn't have the right credentials to take people out for for money.
That doesn't mean that they're going to be a great guide,
no,
a fit for you. It just means that they're legit as far as running a business.
That's right.
And that's honestly that's the first important thing you need to check. And as dumb as it sounds, there's people running without licenses or insurance.
That insurance is important.
Very important.
And I'd like to tell people,
Go ahead.
Mark, I did not get your address. Can you message me? We'll get it out.
He did.
He did message me
On Messenger.
Maybe I didn't get
send it over.
Okay.
Send it over again, Mark.
Send
or,
it, yeah, I
send it
didn't
over
get
to
it,
the TFO
and I'll
page.
get it over
Finish
to
your
We'll finish it up.
Andrew.
Go ahead, Jay.
But I forgot what I was saying. Guess it wasn't important. I seen that and I just.
I'll follow up with what I was going to say, and that kind of the end of that was it's a two-way road or a two-way street. So I've got 3 or 4. I've got a couple guys that I've sent people to in Jacksonville, and I've got a handful of guys that I've sent to up in the Panhandle from Destin all the way over Pensacola up in that area, and I've seen a return on that. So it works both ways. So I've built relationships with a few other guys that I've never even met, but I've gotten trips from them where their clients are coming down to Tampa, so on and so forth. And so it's a good way to network yourself outside of some social media and just in general group stuff, but where you're actually networking with other full-time fishing guides. And so it's a big plus.
Networking tool.
Well,
here's the other thing too: is if you're new coming in the business, I think you need to ask yourself, do I just want to catch fish and post a bunch of pictures on Facebook of big fish? That's great. For me, I got into this business saying I want to be good at what I do. I want to be good at fishing. But also, like, one of my goals was to try to make a difference for the next generation or my daughters that want to fish. And I think this is the only avenue for me that you can really do that. I think we have a lot of room to grow as a Florida Guides Association, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys donating a lot of time. A lot of these old timers, there's some new guys.
You mentioned Phillips and everything, but I mean, we got a local guy that's been doing it and been our voice for a while, and that's Danny.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Greeno, definitely hats go off to Danny, because Danny's been carrying the torch for the Tampa Bay area for 4, 5, 6 years, whatever. I know it's been a while.
Predecessor to I'd say Dave Marquette.
Yeah,
he sort of took.
I lose
the way I
track of
looked at
time,
it.
but and before that, obviously Dave. Dave is anybody that knows Dave. I love Dave because
what you see is what you get.
What you see is what you
right
get,
on the
man.
sleeve, baby.
And I love that. That's the kind of people I like. But a lot of people don't understand that, and they just get a little rub from it. But man, Dave Marquette has done more for the fishing industry in Tampa Bay than probably any single person. I mean,
he's been around the block,
and
we need more
that
of
goes that sometimes goes unappreciated, and sometimes it's just unknown.
Right.
People don't know.
Right.
And that's the thing with Danny. We need Danny's kind of ending. He's at the backside of his career as a guide, but he still cares enough that he's carrying the torch.
Sure.
And
Danny took and I'll say this, and he wouldn't probably want me to say it, but I don't care because it needs to be said. Danny took, I'd say, at least a minimum a week of his time to travel to FWC meetings, sit in as a Florida Guide rep.
And that's
I did not do that.
Yeah.
Danny has a little more time than I do, but it doesn't. That's not even the case. The case is the fact that he took the time on his own time to go dedicate back to our industry. And I think we need more of that.
And what I think is, and I'm not trying to build Danny up here because I don't, but I think what's impressive about Danny doing it is it's one thing to do, to grab a hold of something and run with it when you're at the beginning of your career. Mm-hmm. But I think it speaks volumes when you do that at the end of your career.
It gets harder.
When there's nothing in it for you.
Well,
there's nothing in that for him. So anyway, without sound like I got a man crush on Danny, I appreciate I do appreciate what he does. So anyway,
yeah,
but you do have a man crush on Danny?
I said it sounds that way. But
anyhow,
you'll
guys,
have to decide on yourself if I do.
long story short, we'd love y'all to come out
That's right.
and just sit through the meeting, see what it's about. I think you'll find that going to the meetings, it's you get a little more of what's going on besides catching fish.
Mhm.
And I think you see that, and our industry needs that. You see these people every day talking about the struggles of redfish, the struggles of trout. Well, it sounds good, relieving yourself on social media, but it really does nothing.
Until you do something,
It does
it's
nothing.
It's just air.
I've never seen the FWC come up and comment on somebody's comment on Facebook about, okay, the redfish numbers are down. Let me call you and let's talk.
Right.
You have to use an avenue to get that across, and you've got to, as a group and numbers, on an organization that's respected and listens to the FWC listens to Florida Guides is one of them.
Yeah.
So
and strengthen numbers, guys, and that's something they talk about. We're going to get off this, but the more members that the Florida Guides Association has, and it's a relatively inexpensive cost of doing business, if you will, and an investment back into the industry. But they are the voice that continues to keep us fishing on some level, but not only us as fishing guides, but recreational anglers. We operate under recreational fishing limits. And so, yes, they may be fighting for, on some level, the guide business, but at the end of the day, that revolves around recreational fishing. We don't have any special limits.
I see that response by David Ramirez. Hey, Dave, man, he says, I've seen it at camp. God, every time he does those camps, I have every time had a conflict. And I'm kind of should be left out of that, but it's not out of want. It's just out of pre-scheduling. But yes, thanks, Dave. But anyway, I really can't.
Those camps are awesome.
I can't take any.
And I'm gonna pump those, and I don't know the details for this year, guys. But for any of the folks that are watching, especially in the Tampa Bay area, Dave Ramirez is been with Hillsborough County Parks and Recreations for a long time.
Years.
And a few years ago, he started up a summer camp program that is based out of Simmons Park, and each week there's a new group of kids that comes in. It's limited on the amount of kids they can take, but let me tell you what, man, they do it and they do it right. The kids get a lot of goodies. Dave and his team work like mad fire to get a lot of good sponsors that support the event, and then guys like us will come in. There's a host of fishing guides throughout the Tampa Bay area that contribute time to these types of groups, and we'll come in. I'd normally do 2 or 3 a year, and I'll come in and I'll talk to the kids. And there's something inspiring about talking to kids with fishing. I mean, it's just a lot different than doing an adult seminar, but when you talk to the kids, it's just a different environment. They really appreciate you getting in there and talking to them and taking the time out of the day and showing them a few new things here and there. And so it's a really good experience, not only for the guides. If you're a fishing guide and Dave happens to ask you, try to make some time to go do it. I promise you will get more out of it than the kids do on some level. But also your children. If you've got kids, you need to get them.
Jump real quick though before that comment gets pulled out of sight.
It's like,
what you got?
Well, if somebody's
like the sheriff, son.
If somebody's going to ask us a question, we need to.
Here we go.
Here we
go.
You're going to lose watchers if you ain't paying attention. But if you gut hook a red, will he survive? Or should you keep it?
Well, if it's illegal, don't keep it. Don't matter if it survives or not, because you'll get in trouble.
I'd say if you still got room on your limit, keep him. But I have cleaned, and I know y'all have too, cleaned redfish, because I'm one to probe through the guts of everything I catch. And I've cleaned a couple redfish.
That's not weird or anything.
It's not. There's a couple.
Creepy.
I caught a redfish.
He actually tastes it.
I caught a redfish that actually had part of the hook coming out his anus.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it was all calcified over, and I didn't know what it was.
Boy, that's one heck of a hemorrhoid.
Yeah, he was a trooper, man. But
Preparation
yeah.
Boy.
But anyway,
Son.
I'm the sheriff.
Here's the way I look at it.
Talk about butt hurt.
Here's the way I look at it, Fred. I mean, that's a case-by-case type of thing. You know, if you gut hook a fish, okay, and you pull him up and his guts are hanging out, that's different than the fish fighting and you don't even know it till he gets to the boat and you look down and he's got a hook hung up, down in his throat or something like that. Cut the line down as far as you can get it to the hook and give him the best shot.
They'll rust out,
well,
eventually.
If you got room still for a fish,
if you're
and you
if
eat
you're
fish,
in the process of catching fish to keep, Exactly.
Well,
way,
I mean,
you
I
know-
think you put him in the water if you want to release him, but you're not sure. Put him in the water, see how he's doing. If he's kind
in your
of
well. Put him in
Yeah.
your well for a little while.
yeah, see how he's acting. If he's
Well,
acting
you
all
gotta-
right, then
But if it's an illegal fish, if it's not big enough or too big, obviously,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's just
you,
bad
it's
luck.
got to go
I
regardless.
tell you this though, and I'll tell you what not to do. Don't take a pair of pliers and yank half his throat out and then pitch him back in the water thinking you
Right.
did him good. You're better off cutting the line down as far as
Yeah.
you can and letting that fish have a chance. He may not eat for a week or two, but once that finally rusts out or passes, a lot of times they do just fine. So, good question, by the way, but that's the way I would handle it on a case-by-case basis. So obviously, if they're over or under, you gotta let them go. So
I'm the commercial sheriff. We got
the
to
commercial
roll, son.
sheriff.
Guys, we're going to take a little break, pay some bills. We get back, we'll be talking more fishing. You're listening to Tampa Fishing Outfitters Live Fishing Report.
Sheriff
right here.
Prieto.
Huh?
Sheriff Prieto.
Sheriff Prieto.
Hey,
Deputy Prieto.
we're on
Deputy.
it. We're on
The-
it.
Deputy
the
Dangle.
The good deputy.
Guys, we'll be right back. And welcome back. Tampa Fishing Outfitters
We were
Live Fishing
arguing
Report.
behind
A
the
whole year
commercial.
ago.
We are here, myself, Captain Travis Yaeckel, in the studios. Big Country, Captain Rick Liles,
Just
and Princess Prieto.
I thought it was
Deputy.
popping cork.
Deputy.
Poppin' Cork Prieto.
I got more names.
Princess
Deputy.
Prieto. Deputy
Golly.
Dangle. But anyway, guys, we are here for you guys. We got about another, 45 minutes or so to talk some fishing. So if you got any questions, fire them off. We'll scroll through here and see if we can't answer them.
Yeah, I got another event coming up, and this has nothing to do with you guys, but you are more welcome to come. Little shout out for Family Boating. They're going to do Customer Appreciation Demo Day. I think they're going to have some seminars, food, 27th, 28th, 29th. I hope that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or just that Saturday, Sunday, one or the other. I'll have my boat there Sunday doing some demo rides. If you guys want to get on the 26 Pathfinder with a 350 Verado, there's not a whole lot of them out there. Will have his boat there Saturday, the 25 Hybrid with a 350 Verado. I'm sure they'll have some Yama dogs there with the Pathfinders. Going to have some food. It's going to be a nice event right there at Hula Bay at the Wet Slips. So we're going to have a nice little hoorah there. It'll be fun, and we'd love to see each every one of you guys
That
out
sushi's on point, too, man.
there. Sushi?
But you don't eat sushi. I forgot, man.
Uh,
I had sushi
I
today.
had
By the
California
way, my
rolls
boy
today.
Brett Norris, I'm going to throw a shout out. And there was a few others that recommended
Oh,
this place.
God, not the sheep
But
said
Hooks
guy.
Sushi in St. Pete, man, on point. It's good call,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, we had some sushi for lunch, and it was,
Why didn't you go to Publix? You
good.
didn't take my recommendation?
man, you don't even eat sushi, man.
I ate
ain't listening
California
to you.
rolls today
I ain't
with
listening
Thompson.
To you.
What are you talking about?
I ain't listening to you. Publix.
Jeez,
What's a
come
good
on.
lure for this time of year?
Lure. The one that catches fish.
Depends on what you're fishing.
I don't know.
for,
I'm
Ray.
asking that question because we got the IFA coming this
Yeah.
Saturday, the 24th, and I don't know, man. I'm not feeling
Y'all been
real.
down?
Oh, God.
131.
313 DOA, black and gold,
No,
glitter.
no.
What are you
no.
fishing for, Ray? Give us a targeted species, and we can maybe narrow down that an answer on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of different lures. It depends on, in a lot of times, depends on, like you said, what you're fishing for and where you're fishing.
Right.
You know, there's some areas where you're gonna have to throw a top water lure or a weedless type soft plastic.
I'm a soft plastic
Hey,
guy, man.
he just
I'm
threw a
the same way.
curveball at us.
Bass.
Bass.
Oh,
Hey,
I don't know, man.
Hey,
Worms. I used to
Right.
I
throw.
got you, bro.
I used to throw
Black,
truth when I was a
purple
kid
rubber
on my
worm.
little bit of bass fishing. I've caught some 8-pounders. We used to fish in the pond behind the apartments, and they had good bass. But we used to throw. It was
You're a rattle
Culprit?
trap. You're a rattle trap.
no,
guy
no.
or
I was
something.
I love worms. True turn hook. It was a clear worm, and I can't remember. I can't remember. Maybe culprit or something. Anyways, it was clear, long tail, and it had red and purple and clear and silver glitter in it. And that when they were bedding, We'd go up there and throw them after school.
That sounds like the old.
So when you go in there, just tell them I want that big clear one with the purple and red in it.
Look, I was 12 years old, man. What do you want
Kevin
out of me?
O'Brien is watching. Kevin does a lot of bass fishing. What are they eating now, Kevin?
Yeah, good
I can
question,
tell you this.
Beagle.
I'll tell you this, Ray. I'm gonna point you in the right direction, brother. I said it a couple
Red
shows
shad
ago.
culprit.
Red shad or June bug. Those are the only two colors you
Junebug.
need.
Well,
You
June
look
bug's
like
are
it.
purple like he's talking.
Yep, red shad and June
I
bug.
don't remember what it was.
I like those are culprit names for colors. Actually, red shad sort of falls into a couple other guys that make lures, but red shad and June bug are going to be your best bet this time of year, even all through the year. But in Florida ponds, they work really well. Now, we also talked about the lizard, and I do like a lizard and a pumpkin seed. So those are the three. But if you get a bag of each one of those, buddy, and you don't catch a fish, son, just give me a shout. We'll do some saltwater fishing.
And Charlie just joined us from the FGA. Charlie, I tagged you in the show because we did the first segment mentioning Florida guides in the meeting and gave you a little love on here, as you deserve, and Danny. So I tagged you in there. Jimmy's asking where the redfish for the IFA out of Clearwater. Good question. I think we're making the run to St. Pete at the minimum. So don't know. Beagle, I will be out pre-fishing tomorrow. I can't have your boys whip me up 2 tournaments in a row, so I don't know how much information I'm going to give you. But it's going to be an interesting tournament with this weather. My partner, Brian, he hadn't even been able to get out. He took the whole week off to pre-fish, and it's just like,
bad, man.
you know, he was going to fish.
There's been some reds showing up. I haven't seen a guy messaged me the other day and had asked me, and I gave him a little bit of intel. It's a good buddy of mine.
There's a good question
And,
from Scott for y'all.
I saw that. But just in my opinion, I haven't seen any big schools of fish. I have started to see redfish show up. They're coming in 5-6 fish. Little wolf packs is what I like to call them.
The ones I've seen have been like.
And what you're going to
just here and
see is,
there.
in the next month or so, these low tides are where you're going to find those schools. So these fish are moving in.
They're going to school up
starting to
on these
stage
moon
up,
phases, too.
And then when that water drops out, all these fish are going to push together, and people are going to go, oh, the redfish showed up. Well, they're starting to show up now, but I think in the next month or two, you're going to start to see on those lower tides, you're going to find people finding these wads of fish where they've collected up.
The
to
IFA
rig.
obviously didn't look at the tides when they booked these dates.
Well, they don't really care a whole bunch, I don't think, about
I don't think they do either.
about the tides, but
I mean, come on, cut us a little bit of a break here. Quarter moon incoming the entire day after a front.
Hey, let her rip, Tater Chip.
Why don't you just give us a Zepco 33 for a rod and reel too? Jeez.
My go-to red.
Now, you got to understand with that question, there's no low water, high water, schooling fish. Just in general.
If somebody
what are
said,
you
I
doing?
want to go out and catch a redfish today, and you
With
could
clients.
take one bait and go today, tomorrow, whatever, I'm going to go catch a handful of ladyfish, and I'm going to go to the backcountry, and I'm going to soak cut baits under the bushes.
He said,
Now,
he said rig. I'm thinking artificials.
No,
well,
with clients.
with clients, I mean, we would throw artificials on some days. You know what I mean? If it was artificials, I'd be throwing the cow jigs. I'd be throwing cow jigs with either an 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce jig head. If I've got some deeper water, I may go to a 3/8, and that 3/8, what that does for me is I like fishing deeper water with the 3/8. I can work that bait a little bit slower in those deeper pockets. But that's what I would do for artificial. But for
I'm
now,
with
for
you on that,
redfish,
except for I would use a thread fin. I take
or
a
you know,
big cut thread
and that's
fin.
fine. We've had a couple areas where I've
used to cut
I've
thread
had a
fins.
I've had a ton of
he's ladyfish and pinfish.
well see
Like
when you guys go out to get the
poked.
bait and you can't get it, though, I'll go catch some ladyfish and be good.
We have it in the freezer.
So
Yeah.
oh well,
We've
y'all
had
didn't include me on the.
well,
No,
you were
just bragging about your pinfish. Yeah.
all this pinfish
I'm
stuff. So
pinfish.
we've been
Hey.
sliding out the cut bait.
Hey y'all, that sounds like a tournament, don't you guys think? Don't you think that sounds like we all leave the dock, us three, and see who has the redfish.
with each bait that we think is our
So
favorite.
y'all are
that.
fishing with
I
threadies,
do that.
I'm down
and
with
I'm
that.
fishing with ladyfish.
Absolutely.
Like a bring back
Especially in
scale,
this-
like IFA style.
Especially in about a month and a half when the water's hot and you
That-
throw that you throw that ladyfish out there and watch it fizz like a Alka-Seltzer until it's gone.
Oh no, not if you brine them and get them right, baby.
Nah.
If I got time to prepare, man, hey, I'll be your huckleberry, boys.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell them my my favorite artificial, because that's what I was insinuating he was talking about. It was different about 2 years ago, but the Houdini Z-Man Houdini color paddle Z, man. I'm telling you,
Z-Man
Oh,
Houdini.
Love it.
yeah.
I love it.
Oh.
Houdini.
331 Gold Flake.
313.
313.
You were close.
331.
Close. But you ordered the
That's pretty bad when we're memorizing.
You ordered the 331s.
Houdini, or I can go with Pro White. Pro White's always a go-to for trout, but the Houdini with reds, man, I love it. It's awesome.
Mullet or ladyfish, man, is a good bait.
That's cut bait.
The thing about Scott, if you're using cut bait, and if you got clients, you better have some patient clients, because
rod holders in the front of the boat.
A lot of times,
biggest thing I missed from my canyon bait.
That's a 10, 15, 20-minute wait, and most people can't sit there for that long.
You know what I tell people with cut bait now? They say, "What do I do?" I said, "Act like a rod holder. Don't do anything."
Yeah,
Rodney's the best.
Act like a rod holder. Hold it, because I don't got no rod holders in my boat. I said,
He's the
act
best
like a rod
fisherman
holder.
on the boat, son.
Yeah.
You know the people that artificials, they don't like. The lazy fishermen do go with cut bait. The ones that don't pay attention just sit there like they're doing something
and I
else.
tell you, that's a what?
Out there with a bucket of fried chicken,
Yeah.
with a rod sitting out there.
Yeah.
Hey, I will wait on them,
Yeah,
son.
yeah.
I will wait them out. If
Oh
I know
my
they're
God.
there, hey,
Your
I'm putting
wife
them in the
just
boat.
joined. Does she know how much fun we make of you on here?
It's all good, dude. You see these shoulders, son?
Yeah,
Look at that. Whoa,
they're
my
broad.
son.
Does she make fun of you when you get home? It's like, is it never ending?
No.
Wait till
She
your
loves
daughter
me.
gets old enough to start making fun of you.
You really think?
Yeah, it'll happen.
I
Mine
don't
make
think
fun of me
so.
all the
I
time.
don't think so.
It's okay.
But
Rix just calls him out.
They call me out. Yeah, they call me out.
It's easy though.
Yeah.
You make it easy. But
oh my
that would be
goodness.
my go-to for an artificial cut bait. Man, I'm really throwing more cut. I'm throwing this year. I will tell you, and I told Travis this. Like, I've been using cut. So we've been getting the sardines. Travis's special. I call it the Travis special because
I tell you what, though, man, those sardines lately, I had an epic trout bite on nothing but Spanish sardines, dude.
Well, they've been working. I mean,
but those sardines have grown up to where they're about 3.5,
Right.
4 inches long, and I'm not even gilling them. In
I
a
just
3/8
clipped the
net.
tail, just barely clipped the tail, and I've been catching more fish on cut bait, or just as many.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what it is,
Especially on those
I
slower
think
tides.
it's working better this year. For one, I'm prone to go to it more quicker than I used to. B, I think we had an early spring run in February,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're getting them cold fronts, but them fish have already gotten fed, so they're
These
not
fish
real
have had
hungry.
bait poured
Yeah.
over top of them for a month.
They're kind of tired of it,
You
so
can watch it.
Mackler's showing up too.
I haven't
Just
done that.
to-
I haven't
yeah.
had a day
Hey,
that.
hey, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one. I forgot. I got a picture of it. I got to post up there. This is a new one for me. So I was at the marker.
You have an odd way of catching fish.
Yeah.
by
So
the
I was
way.
at the marker the other day, and Kevin Little witnessed this. He was there with me, and we were catching bait, and I chuck out there, man, and we couldn't figure out this bait was acting weird. I mean, I'm watching on the machine. It
Might
ball
have
up,
been the 10 boats on
no,
it every day.
ball up, take off, ball up, take off. There was only 2 boats there.
It was
Oh,
the
man,
day
what's-
before. It was
I'm
15.
going, what in the world's going on, man? So I chuck the net, and I'm pulling it in, and I see these things flopping around. Well, a lot of times it's a Spanish mackerel. I'll pull a Spanish mackerel. We talked about it. I said, man, when I start catching them, I know it's game time. Well, I pull it up, and I go, man, those aren't Spanish mackerel. What in the world is that? I caught like a dozen baby barracudas.
A dozen?
About that big. I got a
Really?
picture of it.
I'm
They're like
surprised they didn't rip your net up.
they're like this big, man. And I pulled it up, and I even asked Karen, I go, what in the heck is this thing, dude? And I pulled them up, and they were flopping around. And I go, man, they got teeth, and they're little, but they don't look like, they're not silver with dots on them. They're juveniles. They look weird. And I'll post a picture of it, but I caught like a dozen of
I
them
caught a
in one
couple
cast.
little ones the other day.
And
I
so-
mean, like 6 inches long though.
We sort of, I don't know if it was the issue, but I was like, well, man, if there's 40 of these things down there darting around, that may be why this bait's all
Yeah.
weirded out.
got
you know?
two-
'Cause
we
I
got-
never caught a bunch of them like that. So.
We got 2 good questions here. One of them is, and I've never used cut bait on a cork. Have
I
you?
never have.
Absolutely.
That's you
Yep.
know, I knew.
I
I was
never
like,
have.
this is something weird that Travis
No,
has probably tried.
I'll tell you where you do it.
Oh,
a
God.
perfect place to
He's
go do
he's like 100% in.
it. 100%. Go to Tarpon Key and float one on a cut bait.
I'm
on
not
a
going to
cork,
Tarpon
and
Key.
and that turtle grass. That's where you use it. A lot of guys down south, Lemon Bay. That's another
I've
one.
never tried it. I'm
Where-
not saying it wouldn't work.
where-
It's never.
Well, and you're not really. Let me
I'm popping cork Prieto.
let me clarify.
Let me
Let me
The
clarify
Can
that.
you
though.
Cajun Thunder it?
No, it's not that type of a. It's not that type of arrangement. All
Have
you're
you
trying
tried
to
it?
do is.
Don't
Oh.
knock it till you try it.
Well, when you get on a school of fish that are chewing, I mean, you can throw scissors
You
out
ain't
there
answering
and
me.
catch them. But here's the point, and he's got a good point. But a lot of the guys that fish over heavy turtle grass, okay, you throw a cut bait out there, and 3 feet of turtle grass, it's going to the bottom. Especially when you get some schooling fish that are wanting to lift up out of the grass, and then you got 2 foot of water on top of that grass.
Makes sense.
I'm gonna try it next
If
week.
you throw a cut bait out there, a lot of times it buries itself in the grass, and so they'll set their corks up to where that bait is like 2 inches in the grass, to where it's just kind of sitting on top of the grass and it can't go to the bottom.
You can't make this stuff up.
So that is a technique that you can use with cut bait over heavy grass. But in general, like if you're fishing potholes or you're fishing mangrove shorelines and stuff like that,
I've never
it's
tried
not really
it.
necessary.
Never tried it.
But that is a
It makes sense.
It works.
I don't,
I've done
don't
it.
throw cut baits in the middle of the grass though. I hit potholes or kicker trails or something like that.
I have my best
Well,
luck is like in a sand hole with cut bait.
Right.
I think that fish can pick that bait up better, and if they're sitting there, it's like, oh wow, look at that piece of bait. Where it's in the grass, they'll still eat it, but next time I'm on a good cut bait bite, I'm gonna try it just to.
They'll eat it. I mean, and like I said, it's going to depend on the area, but it's for me personally, it's a heavy grass thing. And the two that bring to mind are like the Fort DeSoto area, out in there, Tarpon Key, all around in that area, but also Lemon Bay has got a lot of turtle grass, and then up into like Widdens Creek and around in that area, those heavy grassy areas when those fish want to lay in the grass and be in the grass, that's a really good way to target them.
We got another question here. The salooner tables, do we have a lot of faith? They work. They definitely work. I don't use them, but I do. I've had them where they didn't work, and I've had them where the bite was great. We had Todd in here, and Todd is a huge believer of the salooners, and they work. Todd's a heck of a fisherman too.
He said lunar, but
that's what he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, lunar is moon. Salooner is the sun and the moon. And a lot of people mix those up. So lunar is more like just your tide table. The moon is what pushes the tide. The salooner is what drives the feed times. You got a major and a minor. And so, Florida Sportsman actually was a good source for that. Always posted.
I missed the book.
They always posted the salooner tide table.
I used to buy that book.
Well,
there's several websites that'll do it, and there's several apps now that will also show you the salooner tables.
Scott Moore just chimed in, yes, and I know he uses them. Just from sitting into his seminars years ago. Heck, he's a snook fishing legend.
Yeah.
So if I didn't, that would be enough right there to tell me you better start.
Yeah.
And I tell you, and this comes up quite a bit, and we've talked about it quite a bit, but as a guide, right? And I know it's like when I was tournament fishing a lot, or if I was going to go out for the day and go fish, right? You're a little more apt to look at those things, to try to put yourself in a position where the few hours or the limited time that you're on the water, that you're in the right place.
You want to be at your best spot at the right time,
right? And so,
I think it also gives you that mental. You gotta, if anything, I think it gives you a mental state that at 3 o'clock, I think the bite's going to be on. We got our best shot. Yeah, like you got that. It's like that good lure you're throwing. Like, all right, I think it gives you a little kick mentally, especially if you're having a tough day. And like you've been on a grind for 3 hours on a tournament, and you know how tournaments are. They typically are a grind.
Right.
Like the weather's always crappy, and you get to a point where you're casting, you're like, man, I just need a fish, even if it's a snook or a trout. And I think if you had a real tough day, you can look forward to that point of the day of catching fish, like having
I started paying attention to the salooners, and if Scott's still watching, I met a guy by the name of Matt Gregory 25 years ago through my Labrador Retriever endeavors. Matt Gregory and Scott Moore grew up fishing together, and Mac and I kind of become friends, and knowing him bringing Scott, because Scott's been the man
long time,
especially for snook fishing for forever. And so I had big ears anything that Mac had to say, because him and Scott grew up fishing together, and I knew how good that Scott was. And for that's at least 25 years ago that I've been paying attention to him, and I'm a big believer in him. Now, do I understand him to the fullest? Probably not. Well, no doubt, definitely not. But it's easy to see because they make it kind of dummy proof on some of your charts and stuff. It tells you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the
Here
technology.
it is. So this is your best, but what's he just when
the more you
slow,
fish,
yeah.
what you'll do is you'll correlate that to the tides, right? And so like, and I was talking. It's actually just came up a few weeks ago on the boat. I had a local guy that went fishing with me. We were talking about this, and I said, well, it sort of varies. I said because the salooners, it's not like 3 o'clock being your best spot. It's based on the tide, and it changes. So, 3 o'clock at Joe's Island is not the same tide at 3 o'clock in Apollo Beach.
100%.
And so it sort of depends on where you're at, and it's based on that tide in that area. And throughout Tampa Bay, the tide moves in from the south and works its way around towards St. Pete. And so a lot of times, and we talk about this, is when we leave the dock in the morning, we may run south and fish our way back and stay on that same bite the whole entire way back, or vice versa, work our way south and stay on the same bite, whatever.
You work the tides.
But you're working the tides, and so to answer the question on do we look at the salooner and lunar tables or the tide tables, yeah, we do, but we don't always have a choice.
Right.
We're just fishing.
You're fishing a double, and that's kind of the difference between guiding and being able to go out for the day and fish.
Days.
If I was going to go out and fish on one of those days where we may have to run a morning and we know it's going to be a tough bite, I'd probably rack it and go eat breakfast and come back at 3 o'clock and do just as good as we grinded it out all day. Unfortunately, you don't always get that choice.
When we run doubles, struggle in the morning to get anything going, and then in the afternoon, sometimes it's like
fires off.
Is this even this, or am I fishing the same planet?
And there's so many variables to that.
There's a lot of variables.
Yeah.
I would tell you one.
There's tons of stuff going on there.
I'll tell you one situation that I've grown to really like is you got your quarter moon going into a full moon. Leading into that full moon on the quarters, where the tides are still somewhat slower, I've done really well, even with slower tides. And I think it's just coming into that new moon, these fish are moving around, they're adjusting, they're getting ready, they're feeding good on the new moon, which we had a new moon last week. Explains why I had a great bite.
It was good.
But at the same time, I was going in the same spots every day, and the fish were moving. They're moving a lot, shifting. So that's the advantage of a guide is you go into this stuff, you see the change happen, evolve. If you fished once a week,
follow the pattern.
you go to that same spot, and then fish were there, and then they're gone 5 days later.
Yeah.
We actually see the change evolve, and we see these fish bounce around. So it's easier to get what Travis calls a pattern on, pattern the fish, so to speak. So it helps to fish every day and be out there every day.
It was it's perfect. I mean, you explained it perfect for what I was on my next comment here was that to talk about that. I've had some trout dialed in over the last few weeks, and I've been sort of playing with it. I'll go there, hit a couple spots, and then I'll try this 2 or 3 spots that I've got. And I went there the other day, and I knew it wasn't the same time that I've been fishing these fish. But I said, I'm just curious to see if it's a tide thing, if it's a weather thing, wind thing, and I could not get the fish to chew. I came back to that spot 3 hours later, and I couldn't. I mean, if you put my power poles down in the same spot, I was there again at the right time, which was at the tail end of the incoming, and we started. I mean, it was crazy.
Trout fishing has been real hit or miss this year.
To me, trout fishing, and to me, the trout fishing has really been tide driven. Really, really been tide driven. Like if
you're right about that, Scott.
If they're sitting there on a slack tide, or they're just not wanting to move around, you're not catching them. But the second you get them right and everything starts firing off, there's a lot of fish there. And so that's been one of the keys to us is hitting those holes, especially for the trout, during the right periods of the day to really be successful. And it's been like, and I've tested it, so I'm like, well, maybe they're just loaded. And they're there, but you need to fish them at the right time or you're not
I'm
going
to
to
be honest, I never had to work so hard in my career for trout. I mean,
It's
back in the day,
been-
trout always kind of ate. I mean, maybe they weren't the big ones, and now it's like it's just a lot of work for trout to me. I don't know.
I had a full day.
This is Mr. Trout right here.
Yeah,
Rick
no.
is a heck of a trout fisherman, and I mean, doesn't it seem that way to you?
Well, thank you.
Well, I mean, you always
Rick is known
Rick
as,
will walk up with the net, and he's like, yeah. I'm
Well,
like,
what's funny is,
Jesus.
you'll talk to him,
I
man,
got a
and be like,
15-inch trout. Rick's got like a 23 in there.
We're doing all right.
I mean, I think my forte
we got a
would
few
probably,
trout.
I'd probably be
Pull
the
up to
snook
the
fisherman.
dock, man, and he's got a net full of trout. And I go, a few trout, bro. Kidding me?
I think we're honestly like a diverse crew. I would say I'm the snook fisherman. You're Mr. You're good at red. You got the patience. Rick, I don't know what your deals with trout, but I mean,
it's the trolling motor.
You gotta talk. You gotta talk nice to him.
I just like when I pull up the trout fish, if I don't catch them in 10 minutes, I said, man, I ain't wasting much time on trout. And then I'm like going snook fishing. That's what I tell myself.
I had a full day. I had an 8-hour 2 days ago, and the Sunday before that, or the day before that, I had a double. And I told my guys, I said the morning bite's probably going to be pretty good, and the afternoon bite's probably going to get a little bit better. And so based on that day, we did good in the morning. We caught plenty of snook, a few redfish, a flounder, whatever, and then the afternoon fired off. So the next day, I had a full day, and I told the guys, I said, all right, I think I got this dialed in, So I said, we're going to catch a bunch of snook in the morning. We're going to catch redfish mid-afternoon. And I said, we're going to finish up with trout. And it was literally like bang, bang, bang.
That's a good feeling when you do that.
And I told the guys, I said, all right, man, I'm like 2 for 3 here. And the guy goes, man, can we go catch those trout? Because they were wanting their slam. They didn't want a lot of fish to keep. I think they kept 3 or 4 trout. But we went snook fishing first thing in the morning on that low water. Tide started moving in. Water came up. We went red fishing because I hadn't been able to get the reds as good as I'd like to on a low water. I knew where the fish were. They pushed up in the bushes, and they got happy. We caught redfish in the trees. And then at the tail end of the incoming, we got on a good trout bite. So that was cool. Now tomorrow, who knows?
Yeah.
We've had some wonky weather the last few days, and
it's going to be throw a bunch of stuff at the wall, see what
tomorrow's
sticks.
going to be interesting. We're post front, hopefully our last front. Probably going to have some high pressure. Probably going to have some bluebird skies at least first thing. I'm reading like 10 to 15 mile an hour out of the north. So it ought to be interesting. I told my folks, I said, as long as we can get bait, we can make it happen. But that's been the common. And I talked to a few other captains
We're gonna run our second break
on Monday. Yeah, and quite a few guys are canceling because they can't get bait.
Hey,
So-
Beagle, before we take a break, I just got to tell you that trolling motor is legend.
It is.
It's
That
talked
is-
about. It's not talked about just in our area. It's talked about all over the place. That trolling motor is legend. Just for
It
people
is.
that don't know.
Minn Kota, if somebody that reps from Minn Kota, this guy right here, you should just give him one out of
squeezed every ounce of
that
life
thing
out
could
of that
be
thing.
on their like first trolling
Yes.
motor ever wall. Like I mean, it's
It's epic. It's the ugliest trolling motor you'll ever see, but I mean, Jason and I were talking about this today. I said every time I step up there for the first time of the day, and I turn that handle, I go,
It works.
Today's the day it's not going to work.
and it works.
Here we go.
The old what do you call it? The old knee knocker.
The
Knee
knee
knocker.
knocker,
Well, guys, we're
baby.
going to take a little break. We're going to get back and wrap the show up. You're listening to Tampa Fishing or watching Tampa Fishing Outfitters Live Fishing Report. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. You're in the live well with Tampa Fishing Outfitters Live Fishing Report. I'm Captain Rick with Captain Travis and Captain Jason.
It's smooth,
And,
man.
Smooth operator.
Jeez,
Smooth
man.
operator.
We're gonna bring it
We're
down.
just going to bring it down a notch. We're going to take y'all
Everybody
out. It's a little
relax.
Easy
What was that?
listening.
Joe Mama's Jams. Remember that? Aunt Joe Mama's Jams or whatever it was.
Rick
Yeah.
Lyle's Jam
Jam,
Session.
Jamming out.
Hey.
Oh, my God. We're not right. They should not allow us in
Oh, Fred, interesting comment, buddy. He says, it's the area. I suck it, and trout is all I get at Anclo, and they're boring. They don't get that big. Redfish is the hardest.
Yeah. Trout is not. If you catch a 24, 25-inch trout, they're cool, but otherwise they just shake their head like this. When they're
That's
in.
an interesting. That's
See,
an interesting.
You're talking bad about them. See, this is what I'm
That's
talking
all-
about.
right.
You gotta talk.
Listen, I had perfect.
Talk 'em.
We can sweet talk when we want, Rick. I had an 8-year-old kid. This is a great story.
I ain't
actually.
talking about sweet talk to kids.
Oh,
Sweet
gosh.
talk to
No,
trout.
listen. So the
gosh.
the kid, and I can't remember his name, saved my life, but some repeat clients, nice people, not real good at
They
casting.
used to be.
No,
Yeah.
Now that you can't remember their name.
because they admitted it.
Repeat. He can't remember their
No,
name.
well, I don't remember anybody's name. I just call them by their shirt colors. That's what Glenn Taylor
yeah.
does.
Yeah.
But
Blue,
anyways,
green, reel it up.
he couldn't cast. I said, look, let me show you how to do it. And he sat back and listened. And so Jim was one of the clients, and his son, and then his son's son.
Yeah, it wasn't Jim.
No, it was Jim.
That's like the easiest.
So they were
name,
casting.
Jim.
They're whipping them in the trees, and they're kind of, I kind of showed them. By the end of the trip, little man was out casting them. I'm talking, he was whipping it. The only problem was then I couldn't keep his bait in the water because
Yeah.
he was like,
He wanted to
Oh,
throw.
yeah.
Yeah.
but he was
That's awesome.
he was eating it up. But we started off, snook bite was a little slow, and we got into some trout. And so he's hooking trout. He's like, man, you can see him fighting him. He's struggling with trout. So then I said, all right, let's go try to get some snook. So we move over to snook. We got this. It was like the trout fishing was great until they caught snook, and then it was like, okay,
Yeah.
they're really not that much fun.
That's an
They're
interesting.
not.
the-
You know what? The thing about trout, the attraction to trout is if you want some quick fish to take home and eat,
They're beautiful looking
that's
fish
what-
too.
to eat, and that's really the attraction. Personally, I would much rather snook fish or redfish than trout fish.
What do you think I want to do?
I know what you want to do. That joker right there wants to catch
I've got a question,
I love
and
snook
it. I hope it doesn't cause a controversy, but it's something I've been thinking about, and it's all been this has been boiling in the pot for a while, but it sort of revolves around trout fishing. But do you go trout fishing to catch and release? Like if you're gonna go out to fish, would you consider trout fishing
It's a game
catch
fish.
and release type fishery?
No,
Big ones.
but sometimes yes.
I don't want
I
to keep
mean,
big ones. I threw a
right.
25-incher back.
Yeah.
I don't want
I
to
don't
keep that many
anything over
trout.
22.
Right.
I don't keep
Nothing.
many trout right now because I don't feel good about it. I do keep some. I mean,
Yeah.
we're under a big pressure as clients. I haven't kept a snook through a whole season,
Me
and
either.
I'm pretty big on not keeping them really big. And it's funny. I educate people every time they say, "Well, we're catching a ton of snook." I sound like what I heard at the Snook Symposium. I go through the whole breeding process, and I learned so much on that one day about snook. And I think if more people educate themselves on snook in particular,
Sure.
there would be less kept.
The-
But it's not it's
But
bad. They're a bad person
I
that
know,
keep them.
I know where
personally,
you're going with that, and if trout caught properly, released properly, is fine.
It's fine.
the problem.
It's the guy
I
that
see
takes a
with trout-
picture holding a 16-inch trout, and he's got him like this, and he goes, "Oh, nice catch and release trout today," and his guts are hanging out,
Yeah.
Or
he's
he's
dropped him
grabbing
in the
them with
boat 3 or
dry
4
hands,
times.
or grabbing them with the. I've seen this a couple times lately. Dudes picking them up with a towel,
Yeah.
Your
taking
nose
their
not
time
wet.
to-
The
and that's just that. All that slime coat is just coming off.
right, and so
That's not good.
I guess that was my
point.
point. Is that because it's came around, but like if I'm gonna go to catch and release fish, if I'm not gonna go catch trout, or I'm not gonna
Yeah.
go target trout.
Unless
That's
you're
not gonna
fishing
be
a
the-
tournament for a slam, you're
Right,
trying to get.
that's a totally different
Yeah.
animal. But like if you come out with me and you said, "Hey guys, we want to go out and have a good time and catch, just catch and release," I'm gonna go lady fishing before I go catch.
Oh yeah,
trout.
No, I
But
got
At
you
the
on
same
that.
But
time,
that's
we
my
need our
point.
trout fishery, and and people might argue with me. They need to close them back down December.
I think
November,
they should close them. And I've kept my fair amount of
'Cause our
trout.
numbers are
I'm not
not
gonna
there.
I'm not gonna hide that fact. But my point was that if you see me trout fishing, most of the time
Your meat fish.
I'm going there to catch fish for my clients.
Yeah. Well,
and to eat, and I'm
the-
not killing redfish or I'm not killing snook.
First
Well,
thing they
you
ought
know?
to do is if you trout fish, they ought to hand you a dehooker for one. Then you never have to touch the fish unless it's a bad hook, or hook set or what have you, and that it happens, but it don't happen that often. I mean, it's not like 1 out of every 3 fish are getting foul hooked. It's probably closer to 1 out of every 20. So a dehooker, now you're never even bringing that fish but 10 inches out of the water, you're
100%.
flipping him off, and he's
100%.
gone, and he's fine. They can handle that.
This really hit home because the area that I was talking about fishing, where I've got 3 or 4 different spots now that I've been catching trout consistently. And the only time I'm going there is to trout fish. I'm not going there because I need to bite or we're not catching snook or whatever. I'm not just going there
there's times
to catch
that I know
trout.
myself. I've gone to places to catch trout, to catch and release, because I needed a bite for the day and I couldn't get nothing else happening.
And as a last resort,
Right.
I'm okay with that. But like to use that as a catch and release, I guess that's where it's going to be divided no matter which
Sure.
way you look at
Their
it.
kill
But
rate's just so much
it's
higher
just
than
that's what
others.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather go catch 30 snook, knowing that a majority of those fish are not going to be harmed by us catching and releasing
Right.
them. The trout, I just feel like the mortality rate is so
It's
high
higher. It is
than what
higher.
you would
Jim-
expect. You know, so
Jimmy Beagle from Alify is asking about what are our thoughts on close season on redfish. I think it needs to happen.
Mhm.
My personal opinion. And I don't have any scientific data to say that. I can just tell you about what I see. So I would really like to see some scientific data to back that up. But there's far too many complaints from Charlotte Harbor to Tampa Bay on schools of reds. And we can push it on boat pressure, blah, 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 blah. And it's all contributed, a little bit of each. But we just don't.
We used to have us 2 months.
Yeah.
They were closed for 2 months.
the spawn season.
I think we need to look at that. I think it needs to be addressed. I think the season needs to be adjusted based on good science and good research. But from what we have seen, I think we're all on the same page on this. I think they need to do some kind of closed season.
I think it's a variety of different things. I think
I
don't think there's one answer to say, hey, close the season, we're going to see the population come back. I think there's some areas that need to be pole and troll only. I think that there is some areas that should be no entry, or certain times of the year, this, that, and the other. When these big fish get around, I just think they're getting pressured. I think the combination, and the reason I say that is because we're talking about fish dying, right? We're talking about fish leaving. Well, that's the slot fish. Those are the fish from 18 to 27 inches.
We don't know that they're
Where-
doing that.
no,
though.
but
we don't know. They may be just changing their patterns.
That's what I'm saying, though. But my point is that
Where's
people
the
are
big
saying,
breeders?
where
The breeders
the
aren't
redfish are
being caught.
gone because of pressure, because each guide's taking 2 of them a day and times 100. I've heard all this math go around. My point is okay, what about all the overs? What about all the big breeders,
the
the big
overs are
schools that
getting-
used to be
And that-
all over the place that you're not keeping? You're not harvesting those fish.
Well, I think
so
that
that's
you-
a pressure thing at that point. Those
how many
fish have been
redfish
moved
tournaments
off,
do we have 10,
or
15
water
years ago?
quality.
Not as many, for
one?
Sure. Yeah.
We had 2 IFA, which are 3 tournaments a year, and then you had the Oberto, which you fished the Oberto, right?
No, I
Well, you had
fished that.
FLW.
I fished FLW.
Yeah.
Now we've got a tournament every weekend, and whether it's a big redfish tournament or a little, we just had one last weekend.
Mhm.
We got one, a huge one this week in the IFA. We had the Florida Pro February. There was probably 5 other little tournaments that we don't even know about. And my point being is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stuff that equals up, in my opinion, to that. But I think a closed season of some type would probably help, and that's not going to fix it. I also do
There's
agree
an
with
answer
you.
for you right there.
That's what I
Red
was saying.
tide. There's
Water
a lot of-
conditions. You got dump. You got there's a
There's a bunch of different pieces.
There's a
to
whole
that
bunch
puzzle.
of different things. That's what the point I was trying to make was you can't just point your finger at one thing and go, we're going to change that and fix it.
Well,
It's-
I'm gonna
a-
totally disagree with you and with Jamin there.
There's a lot of
I
stress,
don't want to
too.
see no motor zones and pole and troll and all that.
I think there's some areas that need it.
I
think there's some areas that need it.
100% against that.
But there's areas
I
that
think-
are no motor zones that are getting too much fishing pressure, and the schools aren't there right now anyways.
There's areas
though.
that are
so,
no motor zones that are not getting pressure, and there's no fish there. So that's no, I am dead against that.
It's
You
going
know
to be a
what?
tough
The area-
You pay taxes, I pay taxes. The fish don't pay taxes. I want to fish there. If
I-
wanna-
well,
if
he's-
I wanna
he's
go-
not
I'm not saying
he's
there-
not saying a no fishing
I'm
zone.
not. I'm not. So no fishing zone was probably a little bit of
Like-
a stretch, but
like Tarpon Key.
I'm
But-
okay with that, but
My-
to
No, I don't
do
wanna block
what-
an area
to
off,
do what
take an area like Joe's.
Sam Munich wanted to do.
No,
or
I'm gonna
Gus
tell you-
Munich wanted.
I'll-
He wanted to shut down a whole
No.
area and say you can't go in there.
No.
I don't care if you're walking on a canoe, a kayak. Or
we got
you,
Rick rolling.
You can't
so
even fly over.
I'll
it
tell
on a
you one- I'll
helicopter,
tell
man.
you
no,
one-
We ain't doing that.
I'll tell you one right now.
you guys want to come have dinner with
that
us
has
after
been
the show?
that
It's
has
gonna be
been
fun.
ruined. That has been ruined on some level from people running it over, and it's not illegal to do it. Is Joe's Island. That is one place where redfish schools used to
I
populate.
understand you now. You're not saying you can't fish it. You're saying go in on trolling mode.
I'm saying that
I'm totally fine with that.
what we're doing as far as running these fish over and moving them out of areas that they are happy in, we're pinning these fish up. And when you take a large
The schools are
congregation of
breaking
fish,
up.
300-400 fish, you can't just put them in a cove. These
Right.
fish want to move around and be happy.
Yeah.
And these big bays and these big bodies of water backcountry
Well,
that
I
generally these fish would
Travis,
roam around in, we're pushing them and we're
you
we're
can't tell
constantly
people
pushing
not
them
to
out.
fish.
No,
I'm not saying
and
that.
Jimmy come right back and said yes, trolling motor and pole. We're cool with that.
I,
That's all
I'm
good.
not saying you can't go. I'm just saying that there's certain areas where just in the last 3 or 4 years, the schools of redfish are not showing up. They're not coming into those areas. Are they dead? No, I don't think they're
I
dead.
don't think they're dead either.
But they're just changing their pattern because they're getting pushed around. That's the only point I was trying to make. Now, each area's got its own little different,
sure.
gig. I know the guys down south fight this all the time because
I-
a lot of those areas aren't pole and troll.
And they
the
buzz.
east side, the west wall, even Turtle,
Them
Bull
guys
Bay,
are-
all those
and what
places.
are them guys doing? They're running Texas boats, getting in these areas shallower, quicker, and longer.
Yep.
And they're buzzing the flats, and
Yep.
it's not, you're not killing the fish. You're just they're
moving
moving them.
You're moving those
You're moving
patterns
them.
around, and so the guys have
but
been
it's
fishing them
gonna
for
be
10 years.
It's going to be hard to change that when you have. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay is like the #1 bay boat selling city in the country.
Mhm.
I've been told that, and I could have to believe it. Bay boat sales are through the roof right now. They can't keep boats in stock. Manufacturers can't make boats fast enough. You're not going to stop that. They're not going to slow that down. So it's a hard question to answer.
It's
I
a
think
tough
a close
question to
season would
answer.
help our slot
I
fish.
think some of these areas, and I've talked to some of the guys down in Charlotte Harbor about this. But if they took some of these locally areas that are known for people wanting to go fish, that are known for good fishing, put a marked channel through it. Put a marked channel through it, like Cockroach Bay.
We've already
Granted,
tried that.
But I know, but there's a simple
Manatee
solution.
people won't go
Instead
with
of saying everybody out this and that, or say, well, you can run through here. Eventually, those fish will figure out, hey, I can still sit on this flat
Yeah.
because all these boats are going to run through here. Let's give them their space and let's use
it
our
won't
space.
fly. It won't fly.
Lay
with
it
the-
down
with the-
and troll. You know what I mean?
Great
But
idea.
No,
It was proposed, and it won't fly.
It's
with
always
the manatee
it's
people.
always a
Because what if there is a manatee in that channel and he happens to get hit?
well,
And my response to that is, what happens if there's a guy that shoots you on the side of the road? Well, sometimes you just got some bad luck.
yeah, no doubt.
But that's what you deal with some of these extreme groups.
That's
I'm just gonna
coming
leave
from
it
a
at that.
deputy.
Deputy Dangle.
Deputy Dangle. All right, we got to go.
We
We're
gotta
past
roll,
our time
boys.
limit. Sorry to
What?
leave y'all on such controversy. Next week we're gonna
Thursday.
we're going to be
We're going on
Thursday, not
Thursday.
Wednesday, and we're going to have 2 trivia questions next week because we never even got to the trivia question tonight.
Mark, I got
So,
your text, brother. We're on it.
Anyway, thanks for watching us and taking your time to spend with us. Thanks.
Guys, we appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.